Hi guys, what's going on, and welcome to Mountain Blade Bannerlord. Now, I'm going to assume that most of you have at the very least heard of this game, and I'm hoping that many of you, like myself, are going to be pretty damn excited about it. However, obviously we've been waiting for this game an awfully long time, pretty much since it was first announced back in 2012, and there really hasn't been a tremendous amount of information released, and we certainly haven't yet had any idea of release date. Although a multiplayer closed beta test has actually started for a few select players, so I'm kind of taking this as a sign that we may be starting to at least head towards completion, although I'm probably still a long way off. But given how many games are released too early these days, I think it's probably actually a good thing they've kept things a little bit more behind the closed doors. But anyway, in this video I kind of wanted to run through what we know so far, drawing from the little bit of footage that we do have available, and also drawing a lot of information from the dev blogs that they have put out, and to kind of form this video of some of my favourite features and some of the things that I'm most excited about in Bannerlord. And I think if I think to what really made the original Mountain Blade such a successful game, I think it can be pinned down to the combat system. Because for me it was that dynamic combat system that really made the original Mountain Blade stand out from the crowd. Sort of the challenging directional attack system was kind of hard to learn, but pretty awesome once mastered. The ability to command your own troops also took it to the next level and gave it sort of that element of a strategy game as well. So these systems continue to form the basis of Bannerlord, but have been expanded upon quite significantly. An example of this would be a much more developed chain of command structure, which will see different nobles commanding different unit types. So you'll have the archers commanded by one, the cavalry, the infantry, and it may be that in the beginning of your career where you're working for a liege or a noble, that you may only be commanding a small detachment in a larger battle till you prove your worth or till you manage to build up your own warband. A wider range of unit commands and formations will allow you to structure your units as you see fit and array them for the forthcoming combat. And it's not as if the tactical options just stop there in the open field battles. We've also seen quite a bit of changes and improvements in the siege mechanics. Back in Warband, once you wanted to lay siege to a fort, you just either constructed ladders or a siege tower, and then they appeared on the map, so when you started your assault you could just run up the ladder and or siege tower. But this time we're going to be having fully interactive siege equipment. So this means the attackers are going to be able to make use of battering rams, siege towers, trebuchets, catapults, and a wide range of siege equipment, all of which is going to be fully interactable. And of course, the defenders are going to have to come up and try and deal against this to stop them landing against the walls. There's also going to be problems from the threats of starvation being an ever-present threat, not only for the defenders, but also for the attackers, who are now going to have to manage their supply train, sending out foraging parties, etc. All things which are going to make the food situation an ever-present threat. Furthermore, if as the defenders you feel that you're never going to be able to hold the castle, but you don't want to die, you don't want to make your valiant last stand, you always have the option of trying to break through the lines and escape with your warband, or you could try and negotiate safe passage in return for the castle. So this wide range of changes and options and improvements not only represents more choices in the game, but it also represents a vastly improved AI system. And this isn't just in siege battles, but also in field battles. So back in the old warband, the AI had that real tendency either just to all-out charge against your front line, or just sit back and wait for you, regardless of the terrain or situation. Now they're going to really attempt to make use of game mechanics. They're going to adjust their positions based on terrain, and they're also going to try and react to player decisions and actually capitalise on player mistakes when you make them. So there's a pretty excellent dev blog published back on all these AI changes, which was published back in late 2018, which I highly recommend you go and check out, because it really explains how they've reworked and tried to accomplish these changes in the AI system. And it's mostly been implemented through a chain of command system, in which decisions are made both on the individual level, formation level, and tactics level. So what they mean by this is, on the individual level, units will make decisions when they swing their sword, when they raise their shield, when they adjust their line to keep the formation. So they're making individual people thoughts. People thoughts, that's not a very good reference. But then beyond that we move to the formation level, i.e. when the formation gets told to move forwards, it chooses its position on the ground, it chooses its smaller but squad-based tactics. And then it moves on to the tactical level, and this is where, thinking from a commander's point of view, should the army be arrayed out at the top of the hill or the bottom of the hill? Obviously the top of the hill is better. Making use of terrain, making use of blocks and scenery, and capitalising on player mistakes, charging when the opportunity is right. And it's this sort of level of broken down AI chain of command which is supposedly going to result in a much better AI experience in-game. This pretty nicely leads on to the campaign, because the single player element of Mount & Blade has always been really well developed, and it's sort of formed a really core part of the game that meant that the game has survived for such a long time. And from what we have heard so far, it seems that this trend is set to continue. Players will find themselves thrown back into Caldaria 200 years before the events in which Warband was set. The Empire is in decline, and new warlords are on the rise trying to form their kingdoms. As before, players will control their warband and be free to roam around the sort of expansive open world map, although the map itself should start to feel much more alive this time compared to Warband. There's going to be a lot more dynamic, with merchants running trade missions. Certain materials and goods will only be produced in certain parts of the map, and then will have to be disseminated through the world by trade. So that means some areas are going to have some resources more readily available, and then other areas prices are going to be a lot higher because resources are going to be a lot more scarce. The introduction of trade experience, a dynamic trading system, and that vast array of goods means that the life of a merchant is now a much more viable class than it ever has been before in Bannerlord. However, with the induction of dynasties, the merchant's son may take up the sword and strive to conquer lands of his own. Because yes, you can have your own children. And this really enables to set up your own dynasty for the first time. Furthermore, if your starting character gets killed, you can continue your game as one of your family members or your heir. So this means you're no longer sort of stuck to the one first character. You can have a child, develop that child, and then eventually play as that child. But be warned, if you do end up switching from the life of an honest merchant to that of an outlaw, your crimes might not go unnoticed. And if you really end up starting to cause a lot of trouble, you might find yourself on the receiving end of the executioner's axe. I think one of the other elements that really enabled the original Mount & Blade Warband to survive so long was the really excellent modding community. We had some really good mods like Persistent World, CRPG, there was even like a Game of Thrones mod. I even did a video on it on this channel. So there was just a huge range of modded content introduced into the game, and that's something the developers really want to encourage and continue going forwards. So there's going to be a huge range of modding tools made available, from scene editors, mesh editors, skeleton editors, particle editors, and these are all going to be put available for people to make use of when the game comes out. And there's hopefully going to be a reasonable amount of support from the developers for these mods and for modders. So hopefully we're going to see a really excellent range of mods brought into the game sort of going forwards. And I think this is a really nice thing. I think this shows that developers care about the community. They're looking to create a game that's going to be sustainable in the long term. And I think these are all sort of pretty critical things when trying to make a game these days. So yeah, modding is fully supported. There's a lot of information on this on one of the dev blogs back in very late 2017. I really recommend checking that out if you want to know a bit more about the modding side of things. So there really are loads of other things I could cover, but I kind of wanted to keep this video to sort of around the 10-minute mark. You know, we could cover much more on the logistics, the persuasion system, the productive enterprises, the trade and economy that's being introduced, a lot more to the back end of how the heat maps and everything works with resources getting disseminated. So lots of really interesting information out there in a lot of the dev blogs, and there's a lot to show how this game is being developed. But I just want to say, sort of to conclude, that I'm really excited for the release of Bannerlord. I hope a lot of you are as well, because there's really a lot to come, and I think it's going to be pretty awesome when we actually hit final release. I guess if you have any comments about this video or anything that I've said, do let me know in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel for lots more Mount & Blade content in the future, of an unknown time frame, because we don't know when it's going to be released. And I shall see you guys all on the next video.